Coming to you today from the Southern Legend Outdoors Studio, the Be a Legend podcast. Brought to you from SouthernLegendOutdoors.com. And now your hosts, Kevin Bearfield and Kerry Nelson. Heroes get remembered, but legends never die. It's your time now. Be a legend.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Be a Legend podcast. In this episode, we will resume with the second part of the two-part series with wildlife biologist and National Sales Manager for Tecomate Wildlife Systems, Mark Newell. Listen in as Kerry, Ken, and I learn more great wildlife management tips from Mark.
Real quick, too, I want to talk about just a little bit about management on a property. And you hear that term used a good bit. Well, I'm managing a property. Well, throwing corn out and planting a food plot is not managing a property, all right? So there's a lot goes into it, and if you're going to, and then there's levels of management as well. But basically, if you're going to say I'm hunting a quality deer management property or a managed property, there's an awful lot of work that goes into that. Ken knows that. I mean, it is a thought process, not just for hunting season. It is a thought process that's all year long. Mm-hmm. And that's what you got to think, and most hunters are not thinking all year long. They're just thinking, okay, what can I get out here so I can shoot the deer on? And that is perfectly fine, all right? But you're not managing a property. And there's, being a preacher, and especially with my pastor, you got to alliterate everything. So there's everybody starts laughing because they know there's 3 H's in management. There's managing the habitat. It's very important, all right? And we're talking about more than just food plots. We're talking about the native habitat. What are we doing for their bedding areas? What are we doing for their travel corridors? What are we doing for the natural habitat that's there? And then there's some things that we need to consider to manage on native habitat. Now, if you have lease land, paper company land, there's really not a lot you can do with that because you're limited on what you can do. But on private land, you can do whatever you want to do. It's your land. So you can manage more private land properties more intensively than you can any hunting club land because you can't manage the habitat adequately like you would like to. Then there's managing the herd, all right? Your deer herd, the turkey herd. I'm going to still call it herd because it's an H. Whatever animals that you're managing, population dynamics, age structure. On a lot of the properties that I manage, I do a buck inventory list from every year and a half. If you look at one of the properties, say I manage in Natchez, I was looking at that today and I was emailing them pictures, actually formulating a hit list for them. I have an inventory list that I go all the way down to say 2.5. I just group a bunch of the year and a halves together. But then I can forecast, okay, in 5 years, y'all have X amount of deer that's potential shooters in 5 years from now. Okay, 4 years from now, here's your potential shooters here. 3 years from now, so on and so forth. Now, I know that's, pretty intensive, but I'm just saying that goes into herd management, okay? Mm-hmm. How many does do I need to shoot? How many bucks do I need to shoot? What size bucks do I need to shoot? See, all of these particular factors goes into, okay, what's our goals, all right? Habitat management, okay? That's going to help achieve these goals. Herd management. It's going to help achieve these goals. And here's the hardest one, hunter management. You got to manage the hunter. Yeah. You can have all of these goals in place, and you get that guy that comes in and he shoots that beautiful 2.5-year-old 10-point that scores 120 inches. He's a giant. You're excited. Oh, he's going to be a future Boone and Crockett deer. He walks out and he gets hammered. And then Ken is mad and ready to hit somebody in the face because I've been there. Right, yeah. You've got them, and all of these intertwined. You can have the best habitat management, the best biological plan written up, but if the hunter does not abide by that, then it all goes pot. So they all intertwine. When I was at State, one of the first classes in management that I took, here I am, I'm a wildlife biology major, okay? I want to get away from people. I promise. That's one of the reasons why I went to wildlife. I want to get away from people. I don't want to deal with people. All I want to deal with is wildlife. First junior, senior level class that I took, people management.
People management.
Why am I in here? Yeah. We managing there, people. Literally, did they put me in the right class? I go to my counselor, like, hey, they got me in this class. Why am I in this class? Because you got to deal with people. And now I know managing deer are easy, actually.
Yeah.
Well, with the properties that I manage, look, you do this, and you do. It's like an equation, all right? If you'll do these things, it's going to equal what you're looking for, all right? The hardest part are the people managing this equation, all right?
Yeah. Doing
what I say do to this particular plan, shooting what needs to be shot, don't shooting what don't need to be shot.
Right.
You know, so, I mean, there's at times where that we'll have bucks that are 5.5 years old that only score 120. And there's some of my clients don't want to shoot them. I don't want to shoot that deer. I want to shoot a big deer. But you got to shoot that deer. That deer's got to go, you know. Right. Yeah. So, and a bunch of his buddies along with him, you know.
You want to get rid of that gene pool.
And you want the 3.5-year-olds that are 150s. You don't want to shoot them until they get to. I'm just saying, there's a lot that goes into management than just throwing some corn out, putting a feeder out there, putting a food plot in.
Yeah.
It's the long haul with that, and that's what you got to look at. What are your goals? What are your goals? You've got to have a goal. Is your goal to have more deer? Okay, here's what you do to have more deer. Is your goal for a kid to kill a deer? Here's what we need to do to give that kid the best opportunity to kill a deer. We're not talking about the size of it. If your goal is to kill a 150-inch deer, if your goal is to kill to whatever, okay, this is hard to do, but this is what you have to do to have that chance. You know, that's what you got to do.
Do you think, talking about even in that deer management or hunter management aspect, and you know, a hunter who is trying to be selective, maybe he's been discouraged, he's been hunting. This happens, and it's interesting that even within a county, but within regions within a certain area, you see a different genetic type deer. I've watched it in our property over the past 10 years, and it's amazing that year after year after year, the offspring of those deer, how the characteristics are so much the same. Do you believe, as a wildlife biologist, that a hunter can change that? Let's say that he just has bad genetics in his area.
On a small scale, no, he's not going to change it.
Yeah,
you can't. And it's almost impossible to change it. My guys at state will say that you can't change it, but you can change it because I've seen it happen. But it takes
time,
and you got to hammer some deer. And when I say hammer them, you got to hammer them. Shooting 2 or 3, there's a 6.5-year-old 6-point. He's got to die, and you shoot one of them. No, you got to shoot him. You got to shoot his offspring. You got to shoot the other one's offspring. You got to shoot.
You got to kill the bloodline.
You got to hammer them. You got in certain places you got to hammer them so much where you won't hardly have any deer. And on small tracks, you can't do it.
Yeah,
you're not going to do it because you can't make the impact that you need,
and you can't control all of the deer.
That's why I'm saying
that area.
That's why the answer is no. You can't control it.
Yeah.
If you have a big enough property,
what's the property amount wise where you think, okay, if you have this much land, you can control, you can kind of build that gene pool the way you want it.
It depends on region, depends on where you're at.
I'm talking about Pond Scratch, Mississippi.
You need a minimum of around 1,000 acres.
That's what I figured.
And you
probably
need,
more than that. You're not going to change all of it, but you can start to make an impact at 1,000 acres.
But you probably need to be holding those deer, right?
Yeah.
In order to do that, so that gets back into the habitat management.
Yeah.
With that 1,000 acres
to manage to hold those deer.
And with that 1,000 acres, you better have 50 acres at the minimum in food plots. You really need closer to 100.
Wow.
It's a lot. But we're talking about, I'm just saying, it's hard. I'm just, that's
bigger food plots or more
bigger.
Food plots?
No,
Just
bigger's better. Bigger's better.
So if you got
bigger's better
acres,
than more.
You got 1,000 acres. How many food plots would you put on 1,000 acres?
On 1,000 acres, in a perfect world, I would have no more than 20. Probably 10 to 15. And they all be big. Because you have to understand this as well. The more food plots you spread out, the more you spread your deer out and the harder they are to kill.
Yeah.
Think about an acorn year like today. When there's acorns everywhere and the deer are spread out, how many do you see during the daylight?
Yeah, we've cut ours way down as far as how many we plant.
Mm-hmm. Bigger the better.
We're making them bigger.
The bigger the better for a couple reasons. Number one, you're concentrating deer. Number two, you're growing more tonnage. 10 acre food plots will produce 10 times, not 10 times, but a lot more tonnage than 100 1 acre food plots. It just will. Just think about it, because 1 acre food plot's going to get browsed down quicker than any 10 acre food plot's going to do.
True.
So it's going to produce more tonnage.
Yeah.
And it's all about the tonnage.
Yeah.
That's when,
That's a good point.
right, that's when you start affecting deer. And very few people see it because they're not managing it at that intensive level.
Yeah.
A lot of the properties that I manage, they're gold. The Natchez property. This is what they tell me. It's one of the first properties that well, not this particular property. It's a different one. But when I started working with these particular clients, we're on our second property now, working with them. And I help guys sell their properties also, and I help guys buy properties, because it makes all the difference in the world when you're sinking a lot of money in a property. I don't care who's selling it to you, because they're trying to sell it. It's nice to get an expert, to come in, or professional to come in. I don't want to call myself an expert, but a professional to come in and say, yes, this is the property you need to buy. No, you don't need to buy that property. It does not have the potential that you're looking for, because you have a goal in mind. All right. So their goal was to grow 170-inch deer. Number one, I said, we in Mississippi. All right. Yeah. You want to go buy a property in Iowa or Illinois or something like that, it's a lot easier. Now, it was in Adams County, Mississippi, which is one of the best counties in the state for growing big deer. I said, do you realize what we're going to have to put in this property to even have this potential? We're going to have this, this, and this. They're like, yeah, that's what we want to do. I said, number one, it's going to be a lot of work. Number two, it's going to cost a lot of money. All right? And number three, it may not even work. All right? We may get close to that. Well, on our second property, we built up the third property. It really wasn't what we were looking for. We had some really nice deer. And what was funny about that first property is, here's what they couldn't do. They couldn't shoot a deer for 2 years. The first 2 years they had the property and they spent a lot of money on it. They couldn't shoot a deer until year 3. Is that not hard to do? Again, but here's your goal.
Yeah.
All right? So we started building bigger food plots, and we had a feeding program. We had all this kind of stuff, and looking at the age structure of the deer with all the cameras that we're getting. The oldest deer there was 3 years old. You got to have 5 to at least to have that potential to get to that score. So what we did, it was really cool. We fixed that place up. We had some really nice deer up. We sold that property, and we bought this other property. So basically, we had to start all over again.
Yeah, another 2 years.
Wow.
The first year, this time, the first year, we didn't shoot any deer the first year. The second year, I had one deer in mind that I thought he would have scored about 160, but it was ridiculous. After a full year of year-round nutrition, of summer food plots, of perennial food plots, of feeding and stuff like that, we killed a deer that scored 168. I'm like, all right, we're close. We're getting there. All right. The next year, we killed a 196, 2 that scored 170, and an 8-point that scored 158.
Wow.
Did it take a lot of work? Did it take a lot of effort to get to that? Absolutely. Could you do that anywhere in the state? No. They had good genetics there. We just give them the food and nutrition to get, and the age, because most of these deer are 5 and 6 and 7 years old that scored that. How many 7-year-old deer is in Von Dog County? Not very many. So you've got to get them to 5 to have the chance. That's
the problem. That is the problem.
Goes to hunter management. That's what I'm saying. Goes to the hunter.
Well, and what'll happen around here, a guy will be like, if I don't shoot that deer, my neighbor's going to.
Guess what? You just become that neighbor.
I know.
When you make that statement.
I'm just saying.
You've become that neighbor. If you're worried about if I got to shoot this deer because my neighbor, you're that neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you understand that?
Oh, I know.
Like I was telling you,
It's just
last year we had 7 deer that we were going to shoot.
Yeah.
and we did not shoot on one of them. We didn't see it. You check this camera, they were over there when we was over here.
Yeah.
We went over there, they was over here. So all 7 we did not shoot because we didn't have opportunity. And pretty much this year, every single deer we've seen back. So the neighbor didn't shoot them.
Yeah.
And we have neighbors, and we got a hunting club next to us. They didn't shoot any does last year. They cut the dog. They don't run dogs on that side anymore. About 2,000 acres, so that's good next to us, a steel. And but to answer that question, the neighbors didn't shoot them. We didn't shoot them, and now they're back.
Yeah. Right.
So I would have thought, man, we didn't shoot them. They did. Man, they walked across our lines, and you hear shots where you stand. You're thinking, oh, somebody's going to kill one of these deer, but every one of them are back.
Well, here's the guarantee. Here's the guarantee. If you shoot him, he's dead.
Yeah. You let him
if
go.
you let him go, he's got a chance. Yeah. He's got a chance. And most of the time, they're not going to get shot.
Right.
If you can get a deer in Mississippi,
quality deer.
If you can get him to 4, he'll take care of himself. He'll take care of himself. Because he's going to be hard to hunt. He's going to be hard to kill anyway. You're going to have to hunt him to kill him. And get lucky during the rut or something to kill him.
I believe that 100%.
So, but you're right. That's the mentality that everybody. Oh, well, that's a good one. I'm finna shoot.
I see it every year, and our place that we have right there at my home. That's the property I own. You've been there,
sure. Been a while, but yeah, beautiful property.
100 acres or so, a little under 100 acres, and the guy that's around me, but it really compels you. And the guy that's got land there with me, mine and his together is probably, 300 acres, which is still not enough to really hold deer. But it'd be worth us saying to our listeners out there, stop the whole social media hype of having to be the guy who posts the first kill. Everybody wants to go out there, and social media has done so much for us. But it does so much against us as well because everybody wants to go out there and Instagram, and it's all about what you're trying to achieve. Yeah. Like you said,
it's all about your goals.
I'm not against anybody who does, but if you are maybe trying to achieve that goal, it's worth guys getting a consortium with the guys in their community and say, guys, let's get together.
That's right.
And start trying to manage our deer because the results we're going to see 3 and 4 years. It may take 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it'll take time.
But we're all going to benefit.
That's right.
There are going to be plenty of deer for everyone to share if we will stop killing small, immature bucks that need more and kill the ones that need to be, like you said.
Sure.
And really start a process. But that's part of why we're doing this too, is to educate. Because I think we sit there, look at how much we've learned tonight. That we didn't know, and education is such a big deal. And we turn on the outdoor channel, and what do we see most of the time? We see, properties that thousands, and in many cases tens and 20, 30, hundred thousands of dollars are being put into those properties because TV shows are working those properties. But the average guy out here, like those of us sitting right here, can't relate to that because we can't own. We can't own 3,000 or 4,000 acres. We can't put tens of thousands of dollars into that. So what can you do? Work with your community. Get out there and talk with the guys that are hunting around you, and try to work a system out that everyone understands and mutually agree that we're going to allow our deer herd to mature the bucks and manage. So I think that's just some great information.
It takes a group effort.
It does. Yeah. It does.
Look at how much your place has changed over the past, 7 or 8 years. From where it was. And I'm not, there are a lot of guys out there that like to run dogs, but that has diminished a lot in the past 5 to 7 years. I'm not necessarily, it's legal. It's not what I prefer. No. But I think it probably has helped some. That type of hunting has diminished some over the past several years.
Yep.
I don't know.
That land is just diminishing so much that the paper companies
Yeah.
They're stopping leasing to some dog
Yeah.
clubs, and I've done it before with folks, and man, it's fun.
That's
You
what
get
I grew
going.
up
it
doing.
is.
It's
It
what I
is.
grew up
It is
doing.
fun.
It
It's-
really is
But
fun.
there ain't nothing worse than you at your own place and
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're sitting there and you hear them coming and it's exciting. You get ready and everything, but
Yeah.
then it's like they ran through the property and you worked your tail off, and
Yeah.
you may have a client out there or
Sure.
whoever it is, or a kid or whatever, or
Yeah.
handicapped person trying to hunt, and there you go. But tell me one thing. I know we probably getting close to the end of the podcast, but what about doe management on a property? I told you earlier we didn't shoot does last year. We didn't kill a doe on a property.
Sure.
Our hunting club next to us did not kill. Well, they were no does. Don't kill a doe. You got to know some were killed.
Sure.
And it's probably 1,500, 2,000 acres that joins us.
Sure.
And we saw does. The reason why we did this is used to just say in my big crop field, I would see 12, 15 does a hunt, and with bucks. Well, over the years, it went down to 2, 3 does a hunt.
Yeah.
Now, on a good year, we've had property since 2002. We've killed 8 points or better since 2002. Okay. Now, when I say 8 point, it's
That's an 8 point.
It's 8 point. But at least we had something
Yeah.
that we had in mind, and now we try to make it 15 to 16. Not so much aging them right now, but we want to do that.
Yeah.
But
That's the.
But we went to, and sometimes you'll have a 2-year-old of 16. You know that. But we didn't kill any last year. Cameras are out. We've got tons of does. Some spots we got all bucks right now. One doe, 9 different bucks, 10 different bucks coming to this one spot. Maybe a doe. Another spot, all does. Couple little scrubs or whatever. So how would you enter this year as my property as far as doe management?
Yep.
Since we did, we want some meat here and there. So what would you suggest on that?
It's a good question. First of all, I mean, you've opened up a pretty big can of worms when it comes to doe management and the thought of doe management from the state philosophy to the actual land-based philosophy. And one of the things that in this area, in a lot of areas of the state, the idea of, hey, we've got to shoot a lot of does was blown out of proportion, and way too many does were shot.
Yeah.
I believe
Way
that.
too many does. And this is biologists
agree.
coming who, there's properties that I manage.
I'm glad
we've got,
to hear him say this.
Right.
You know where I'm
Yeah.
going.
I know.
And, I mean,
there's properties I manage, we have to kill 80 does a year on. I mean, you've got to kill them. Maybe more than that. And you have to kill that many. It's ridiculous. But most of the places in North Mississippi, they ain't nowhere near that. And they've been shot too much. Too many has been shot. And the idea from wherever it's coming from, trying to stay as politically correct as I possibly can,
you don't have
needs
to do
to
that on
stop.
this show.
It
You don't
needs
have
to
to do
stop
that on this show.
It needs to stop. We have the management focus on shooting a bunch of does and not shooting the bucks. It's way overdone. We've shot too many does in the past 10 years than we should have. We have.
Well, there are areas that are depleted right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and
They are.
and it wasn't that way. Now, my dad will talk of times and when way back when they did just mass kill massive amounts of deer, and you go into areas and there were no deer. And so we allowed them to come back. We went through that period of years where you couldn't. It was illegal to kill a doe.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, you had a doe day.
Yeah,
Do y'all
that's
remember
it.
that?
Yeah, doe day.
You only had one day in a whole season that you could even kill a doe.
Yeah.
And it seemed like, I mean, we tend to think about things in terms of 3 or 4 years, but probably in the whole big picture, it's what happens in a population over 10, 20 years.
That's the
you
time
see.
frame on my property since 2002.
Yeah.
Because we were seeing all those does, and then it went to seeing very few. We'd see more bucks than does. And what would happen during the heat of the rut, there wasn't enough does. They'd leave my property. the bucks will
Yeah.
leave my property, going for does somewhere else.
Right.
And so
But we were being told
to shoot.
kill does.
You gotta shoot a
I've
bull.
been told. People have said if you see 5 does in your field, that means there's 25 behind the trees
No,
that you
wait,
can't see
yeah.
right there.
That's
And
what
you
I'd
and
always
so
heard
you
that
need to
too.
kill all those does, and I just couldn't.
No.
I was sitting
Now-
there, and we've talked about it in previous episodes, Mark, that over the years we've been killing bucks, and we just had massive amounts of does. We'd go out there; it would not be uncommon to see 20 or 25 does on a hunt. And Daddy and I talk, and we'd be like, "They're saying kill those does, but we keep killing bucks. Why do we want to change what we're doing? If what we're doing is working,
Right.
leave it alone. If you want to kill a doe, but don't just go kill them because everyone out there is saying you need to kill a bunch of does."
Well, here's the thing, and here's the big problem with state ideology. They're managing deer herds by policy and not by specific property. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And kudos to those guys, smart guys, went to school with those guys, good guys. But that's what they're dealing with. So, okay, here's what we think our numbers are. We need to kill X amount or whatever, and that's their thought process. My thought process is completely different. Every property is looked at differently. Like if I come to your property, first thing I'm finna do is do an intensive camera survey for 2 weeks. I'm going to tell you how many does I think you have. I'm going to tell you how many bucks you have. And then we're going to census that deer herd best way we can. And how many deer do I think this property can hold? All right? Well, looks like you have X amount of does and X amount of bucks. You need to shoot a few does here. You can shoot a couple bucks here. That will keep you balanced. And then from year after year, you know how many does you need to kill with that. That's the only way to do it right. You can't do that on a statewide managed basis. You just can't because they just don't know. You don't have the time to do that. But that's the way it needs to be done. All of my properties that we manage, that's the way we go by.
So cameras, you can tell on your cameras real quick.
You can. Now this time of year it's hard to because acorns are finna start dropping, finna disperse deer. But earlier in the season, do a very thorough camera survey, and you can come up with some pretty good numbers there.
Write everything down.
Yeah, and I'll throw a golly gee whiz quote out there you made mention. What's really cool during the early season, you'll get groups of bucks, and they'll dominate a feed site.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to let a doe come over there.
Right.
Because this is our place. And then the bucks and the does, they just don't even. They're like two different, species of deer, and that's how that works. It's very common to see that. You'll see the yearling bucks with a group of does.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he ain't been run off yet.
Right.
But just as soon as velvet drops, testosterone goes up, and
They start breaking up.
they become a completely different deer. All right, completely different deer. They get their brain back. All right, they're pretty dumb during the summer. I mean, they're set on those patterns. You'll get daylight pictures of them.
Yep.
August, September. Soon as velvet drops, you have a change from estrogen to testosterone. That's what makes the velvet, start coming off and the horns will harden up. And he becomes a completely different deer. Now I'm thinking his whole mentality changes. His whole thought process changes. All right? And so you see that as well. But no, we've overshot does. We have. In a lot of parts of the states, we've overshot does. There's still some parts in the state we ain't shot enough of. So
when I was 15, all right, and that is 33 years ago. I'm gonna give you a point. When my daddy took Bradford Chapel Baptist Church, I mean in the committee meeting, the pulpit committee meeting, it was brought up, Brother Nelson, do you hunt? To which my daddy, with one good arm, said, "Well, I've quail hunted and squirrel hunted and rabbit hunted. But does your son hunt?" Well, he's just hunted what I took him. I never deer hunted till I was 15. In the committee meeting, okay? In the committee meeting, they say to him, "Well, if you come down here, Brother Nelson, and take the church, we don't shoot does. Y'all think I'm kidding? In the pulpit committee meeting of a Baptist church, the men. No, are you saved? No, that didn't come up. When did you surrender to preach? That didn't come up. You use the King James Bible? That didn't come up. How many wives have you had? Oh, we don't care. Have you ever been committed, to
A felony or
felony or anything? You only kill 6 people. Okay, that's fine.
But you
ain't killing no doe.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm giving y'all my point. This is a true story. So, like I said, I've never deer hunted, rabbit hunted, squirrel hunted, quail hunted, dove hunted. Any little bird flying over as a kid, you're trying to wear it out with a BB gun. Never deer hunt. We didn't have no deer up here when I lived at Thaxton in the late 70s and early 80s. No deer.
You old.
People would go, people would go to over here to Lafayette County, backside of Denmark, and deer hunt. We didn't have none. All right, so Daddy takes the church. I'm going on my first deer hunt. He takes the church. And deer season's over when he took the church first time. When he first took church. Comes in a year later, it's deer season, taking me deer hunting. My daddy sits me down, and now Daddy says this to me. He said, "You better not ever kill a doe. They will vote me out of this church." True story. He said, "I ain't thought about this, but I'm finna tell you, they told me in that pulpit committee meeting, you don't kill no doe." And no telling how many hunts I was on.
Really?
And down in Calhoun County now, one of the greatest areas to hunt, right on the Tri-County, Grenada, Webster, Calhoun. That's where the church sat. I'd be in the woods. Now, they run dogs. That's what they did. Nobody still hunted. Back then, nobody got in a tree and still hunted. They ran dogs. I'd be in the woods, Ken, and like 17 does in a line would walk through, look at me like, "You want your daddy to get voted out? Go ahead and shoot me." And I had that 30-30, man. And so nobody'd be in the woods with me. I'd scope every one of them in, man. I'd kill them in my mind. But my point is, killing a doe when I was a kid, it almost was like a crime. If you killed a doe, they would not speak to you.
Yeah. Really?
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man.
Yeah.
It was.
But I do remember on that doe day.
Yeah.
When it reached,
They would not
reached
kill on doe day. They would not kill a doe.
But then
on doe day.
for some people, that was like the pinnacle. That was like opening day for us.
Yeah, everybody came out.
It'd be everywhere. It'd just be massive.
That's right.
Guys pulled off on the side of the road everywhere.
Denmark, you'd have orange on every hill, every hollow.
Well, it's got to be a balance. You got one extreme where, okay, we got to shoot every doe that you say. You got the other extreme. Don't shoot a doe. If you shoot a doe, you're going to get voted out of the church.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the middle. There's a balance there.
Yeah.
And that's what it's got to be. And it's per property. Ken's property, he can only shoot a couple does on his property this year. I think you could shoot a couple does, won't hurt a thing. All right? But there'd be some properties where you may need to kill 20. And some properties you still don't need to shoot any does. It depends on your property. What are you seeing? What are you getting on camera? With trail cameras now, everybody's got a half a dozen or more, Yeah. So,
from a philosophical standpoint, don't you think, though, that, from a huge picture, like looking at this from 50,000 feet up, looking at it from heaven,
sure,
that animal was created by God and put here. And if you abuse that as you do anything, you're going to get bad results.
That's absolutely.
If you abuse your property, you're going to see bad results. If we do anything that would be almost unethical, the long-term results are not going to be good from that.
No, absolutely.
So from a policy standpoint, political correctness, we know that there are powers at work that want to see the doe populations diminished because there's a lot of money involved. At one time I heard the insurance industry in the state was huge behind the push to eliminate, because we were the #1 state, I know, a couple of years ago for deer reported accidents. That had to be costing a lot of money to the insurance companies across the state. So I get where that comes from, but there has to be a point where we have to look at this thing.
No. Yep.
Our creator created this animal, and if we go out there and kill too many, or if he also intended that animal to be meat on our table.
Absolutely.
If we don't manage it enough, we're gonna see bad results either way. So I think what you said, balance is the key, right?
Yeah, and we all know what the Bible teaches. God put us here to be stewards of the ground that He's given us, the property that we're blessed to get to hunt. We need to be good stewards of that property.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, again, it goes back to our goals again, and hopefully, the idea of being good stewards of the land is going to factor somewhere into that gold. So, and it's got to be balanced, and each property is going to be different. The more food you can have, like Ken's property, it's got a lot of food there. He's going to have higher carrying capacity. A carrying capacity of the property is how many deer can live on your property in a very nutritional way, all right, in a very healthy way, okay? There's certain properties that don't have a lot of food. It has a lower carrying capacity, all right? So the higher carrying capacity, the more deer that you can hold, all right? Yeah. So, in any way, so the more deer that you have that you can shoot each particular year, does and bucks, you know? So, but it's a balance, all right? The mentality, don't shoot a doe, all right? But we'll shoot the first 4-point that walks out. Okay, that's not a good idea either, So again, it goes to balance, goes to your goals. Back to the 3 things again: habitat, herd. We're talking about herd right here, and then the hunter. So, and they all intertwine. They all go together. They all go together to form a common goal. What's that common goal? Is the common goal to shoot, any kind of legal buck, to produce as many of those as you can? That's great if that's your goal, all right? Do what it takes to get to that particular goal. If it's the goal is to kill a trophy, okay, what we need to do with that trophy anyway. So, awful lot that we can go in the depths with there.
There's no doubt we're doing a better job today than we were doing 10 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
And 20 years ago. Otherwise, just think about tonight, all the pictures we were sharing with each other.
Sure.
That we would not have seen 10, 12 years ago.
No.
We're looking at bucks in Pontotoc County that are 160s.
Yeah.
170. That would have been unheard of 15 years ago, right?
Right.
I mean, so it's getting better.
Sure, absolutely.
And a lot of that's education. It's just education, and guys are beginning to listen and understand, and I just think it's a great thing.
Like years ago, Ken, when did you say you got your property?
2002.
Well, that's going to be about the time Ken let me come and hunt, all right? So up until that point, I had only killed 1 deer in my life, and it was like a little unicorn with something else coming out the side. And so I'm down there at Ken's, and this 5-point comes out, and so I killed the 5 first, really my first buck.
Yeah.
But it wasn't nothing. I mean, it ain't mounted or nothing. And then later, late at night, getting dusky, dark, you see the, how you see the last light to shoot. I shot and killed like a 6 or 7 point, little crusty looking buck down at Ken's.
Crusty.
Now, here's my point. And later, I've said to, and Ken knows what I'm talking about. I've said to him about that is, I should have not shot either one of those deer, if he's going to let Mary Kate shoot it, Eli shoot it, Lakin shoot it, that's different. But I should not have shot them deer. We've talked about that. I've said, Ken, he was fine. But my point of that is this, down to the hunter, okay? This is the first time I've talked about that story in 15 years. Because it ain't no story to tell.
Yeah.
That's my point. There ain't no story to tell. All I can tell you is I shot him, because that's pretty much all I did.
Yeah.
When that deer could have come back in 4 years and been a story, hey, tell us about when you killed that 12-point. My point is, I've had to learn that, not as a kid, as an adult. And then the other thing is, the properties I've had for myself has always been small tracts. Now I'm in a situation where I have just almost tripled my property that joins each other. And now I have to make a decision, because in what I do, I take kids, disabled, I want them to get a shot, I want them to get, but this particular property has got to have some different management because it can now. Here's the reason it should, is because it can. And I know what you're saying. If you don't shoot it, it don't die. But the mentality of most people with 100 acres, like Kevin said, is it's hard sometimes to think, well, you know, if he gets over here, Bubba's shooting him, or so-and-so shooting him. And so I might as well shoot him for the meat, if not the story, but for the meat. But when you do, here's what I'm trying to get at. When you do get enough property, Ken's got enough property to manage. And he got along with his neighbors. He got with them and they've managed. And I think that could be the key, is for Kevin with 100 acres to get with Bob with 500 acres and Tim with another 80. And before long, you've got a cluster of 1,000 to 1,500 acres.
Yeah.
And to our listeners, I'm talking to you from somebody that's just really learning some of this, that you can. I would think you'd have to have 15,000 acres to manage deer. Truth of the matter is, you can take 8 to 1,200 acres, and you may have some slip here and there. You may have people come on trespass at night. You can't stop some things. But the truth of the matter is, if you put the right food, those 3 H's will help a 800 acre to 1,200 acre property. And you may just be 300 acre owner in that. But if you could get with the people around you, manage that, and then you've got a story to tell.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Brother Kerry, there's a technical term for that. It's called private land cooperatives. It's where you and your neighbors get together with the same goal,
Right.
to increase the land base, to better the habitat, to better the herd, to give you the outcome that you're looking for.
Right.
And that helps each and every one of those in order to do that.
And even if you don't have, if you got 5 guys and one doesn't want to cooperate, if the other 4 will, you'll do enough to overcome that one guy who's not, because
Sure.
he can't get them all.
Sure, no, he can't kill them all.
So you can take what you can, work with what you got. I mean, that's a great point.
I showed this deer here to Ken a while ago. See this deer, Brother Kerry?
Yeah.
Is that a big deer? Who would not love to shoot that deer?
Me, I would like to shoot that deer.
We're not going to say exactly where this deer is, but he's lived. He's a 6.5-year-old deer. I've had pictures of him since he was 3. This is a 40-acre piece of property. And you would think, if I didn't shoot him at 3, somebody's going to kill him. I didn't shoot him at 4. I would have shot him at 5, but I didn't see him.
And he's back.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
just because you have that mentality that if I don't shoot him, somebody else will.
Don't mean that's gonna happen.
Does not mean that's going to happen.
Right.
You know, that's hard to get. I grew up with that. If I don't shoot this deer, Joe Ball's going to shoot him. You know. Well, most of the time that's not. It may happen. And one other real quick story on that. Right here, almost said the place, and I can't say it because it's too close.
Vina, Alabama.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. Brian Bridges' property. I'll give you the address. He'd go kill his deer.
90-acre property. Started helping develop it. The guy let me hunt it if I just paid for the seed and did all the work. Well, to me, that was a great exchange. The second year, I killed the biggest deer that's ever been killed on that property. In the second year of working it. Really nice 8-point, 4.5-year-old deer. I was tickled to death. The next year, killed a deer bigger than that one. Right? This is 90 acres. Right? Really nice deer. The third year, I didn't have any older age class bucks that was there that was staying on the property, but I had several good ones that was 3 years old, and I didn't want to shoot them. Wanted to at least get to 4 on this particular property. I was going to try to get them to 4. And I had 2 really good deer that was going to be giants the next year. And what happens? They get shot, all right? They get killed. You're not going to hold all of them, all right? Well, no, one of them got killed. The smaller of the 2 got killed. The next year, I killed the biggest deer of the property again that was an evermore giant for this area. And what I'm saying, you're going to lose some, and ain't nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
But in the course of 4 or 5 years, I killed 3 really, really nice bucks on a small property because I had the food. Most of them stayed pretty close to home. A few of them ventured off and got shot. But at the end results, look.
But it's about a herd.
Exactly.
It's not about
exactly.
one deer.
It's about one.
buck.
You got more than one. That's what I'm getting at.
You had the habitat.
Right.
You did the right hunting as the
Exactly.
hunter, and you got a reward out of the herd.
Absolutely.
You're not going to get 100%.
No.
None of us
That's
are.
what
At
I'm
the end of the
getting at.
day, if we can all get 10%, that's probably a good success rate, right?
Yeah.
If you can pull out 10% of the shootable trophy bucks in your area, we'd be really happy with that.
So, I'm just saying it's possible.
Yeah.
With right habitat management, with right food plot management, with right the pressure that you put on the property, all those factors go into place. You definitely can do it. You can do better. You can always do better.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, did you hear the couple new rules that came out this year? It is lawful to hunt
Yes.
less than 100 yards
Less
of
than
a
100
feeder.
yards.
You know, we got a tag call in our turkeys this year.
I heard about that.
Yes.
Time. Repeat that.
Tag system type, call in your turkey this year when you kill it.
So it is mandatory this year.
How about that?
And no feeders run from
First of
start
March.
at 1st of March to then that's the 1st of May.
So throughout the course of turkey season, no
you cannot
feed.
run a feeder legally. No matter if you hunt it or not, your place. You're not supposed to have a supplemental feeder going on your place, on your property.
Wow.
As
I'd
I
like-
read it,
I'd like to say that the people, the politicians, the preachers,
preachers need
the politicians and the preachers of the great state of Alabama and Nick Saban somehow is involved in these stupid rules because y'all are the ones that had these rules and you've been mad at us because we didn't.
Yes.
Suck it up.
we beat them 2 out of 3 years, Kerry.
I know. Nick Saban passed them laws, I'm telling you.
That's what I read now.
What about that?
What about the supplemental feeding? Are you, from a biologist standpoint, and we talked a little bit last week about CWD, and they've had a little problem with that. There's some restrictions in southwestern Mississippi.
One case.
Yeah.
One case.
One. And one of the river counties.
So have they overreacted to that?
yes.
More than
A
likely.
major
I mean,
overreaction. Yes.
but they have some restrictions down there this year.
And-
I don't
and
know. They withdrew
they
some.
lifted some.
They lifted some of those,
it's,
but
it's a queen in Warren County.
Yeah,
You
it's the
can't
queen.
feed at all.
yeah.
No feeding whatsoever.
And
Oh, and what-
based on what? Based on that if it's on the ground, that it can contract disease. I'm talking about what they're thinking. I know what you're thinking.
But the deer, I guess the idea is that they're spreading because
It's
they're
past-
eating out of that same
Right.
that saliva.
right.
Eating out of the same pile.
Oh
the
my
same
gosh,
color.
they're mating when during the rut.
They're kissing and everything.
Yeah, they're kissing and everything, kid.
Well, I haven't seen
I
that.
mean, there's just some things going on during the rut that's got to be worse for them than eating out of the same corn
We
pile.
got to keep this G rated.
I mean, that's true.
Every man
That's
listening
true.
takes his vacation, lies to his wife about why he can't go with the kids, so he's got a week during the rut, and we all know what the rut is, right? So let's
Right.
use straight. I guess that's silly to me from a biologist standpoint. I know that you probably could tell us stuff that would make us all, you could make this thing out to be from a biologist standpoint. Here's my point. I have never put a bag of corn out on the ground or in a feeder or wherever, and it stayed long enough for one of the sides of the story that it can contract if it molds, mildews, because it's on the ground, they might catch a disease. The other is they're eating from the same pile, their hoofs, which can carry, I know they talk about them walking in it, different things. I guess my thing is one case, and it's not even close, to us, and
But that's all they needed.
but that's all they
Yeah,
needed.
they wanted to.
So now that we've got through the rut, we've explained some people explain the birds and the bees. We have explained the does and the bucks.
The does.
Really was
So,
But why would they have overreacted to that? I mean, there are a lot of guys talking about this.
well.
Why are they overreacting to it?
You know, there's it's still, CWD is still a disease that we fully don't understand. So, and the contingency plan has been in place for a long time. So as soon as it happened, boom, it immediately was put in place. With no feeding, trying to monitor the deer, nothing. What it basically is, any bodily fluid can have that. All right.
Yeah.
Try not to look at Brother Kerry. All right. And and pass that disease on. And I wish I had time to get in the more the specifics as well as some of the ideas on how this thing can get spread around. Number one, you just really don't know. So we got to do something. So what can we do that we think that could lessen that? All right, well, we'll do this and we'll do this and we'll do this. And, it's...
so they already had a plan, and
Yes,
then when
they
it
had a
come up,
plan.
they
As soon as it
felt
happened.
obligated.
Yes, they had to
Okay,
do that.
well, and
Absolutely.
for
Well, did
on
they-
their
They
side,
tested
I
every
can-
roadkill around that area.
Oh, they did.
Every
And they-
wheat-looking deer, every mangy-looking deer they tested.
Do you think they were looking for it?
Yeah.
I
Sure.
mean, was
But it
there
came
an
up to start
agenda in
for-
place
to
to
start
try to
with.
find
Okay.
one, more than
Yeah.
likely? And probably, if you search across the state and they worked hard enough, they would probably find other deer with disease. We have all witnessed deer in our herd at some point with a disease.
Right.
I mean, that's a natural part of life, right? That's going to happen. We have this disease in the human race, but that doesn't mean we shut down the human race. Or
You ain't going to shut down
or-
McDonald's.
Yeah, or you quarantine like a whole county because someone, we try to use good measures. It's different with deer, obviously, but I guess if you look hard enough to find something, you'll find it, right? I mean,
Was the same people that found this out with the deer the same people that investigated Ole Miss for 3 years? I'm just wondering.
I think it was.
I think it was. That's why they found it. That's why they found it. Because anyway, that
are there any? Would you say, just to kind of wrap that side of it up, are there any bad practices out there as a biologist that you would say, don't do this? You're asking for trouble. As far as supplemental feeding and that sort of thing. I mean,
Yeah, there probably is that are out there. I mean, there's good ways to feed and there's bad ways to feed. One of the worst ways you can feed is piling stuff up too high on something. Yeah, you're asking for trouble there. Like 300 pounds of corn piled in one particular pile.
Yeah.
There's just, it can mold and you're wasting your feed anyway,
Yeah.
The thing is, once it gets bad, they're not going to eat it. Deer's
Right.
not going to touch it. And he's going to I ain't eating that,
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and so a lot of times you're wasting it that way anyway. They would rather eat it spread out more, from a spread feeder or whatever like that. But I don't want to even take the time to get into a lot of those particular, situations. What's the best way to feed and or whatever. But
and if you see a sick deer in your herd, you need to take it, right?
yeah, sure. I mean,
if you see a deer that's abnormally small, lean, that you feel like, hey, there's something going on here, that deer probably needs to be taken.
probably, yep. But most of the time, you got factors in nature is going to take care of that
Yeah.
anyway. You
Yeah.
know. So again, deer is going to get sick. They get normal diseases just like we get diseases, and definitely natural selection will take care of a lot of that. Wow, that's a pretty one.
That deer looks like a camel.
Yeah. Well, when y'all started talking, I texted Eli. I said, "Send me the deer from one of our properties that had the thing going on." This deer has been shot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. So this was the end of last year. One of the first deer we got on picture this year, fully good, back's good. You can tell the scarring from the fur and all that. Everything's back. He's good to go. He's
Yeah.
about a 5 point. So if that dude can make it through that, and we've all shot them and trailed them, and they bled more blood than they should have in their body, and then we have a deer right now that comes around. I showed you comes around. Caleb Ramsey shot at it last year, clipped it right under the neck. The next evening, it's back on camera with a neck injury.
Yeah.
All right. This year, it's a bigger buck. So, I guess my thing to that is, what's made them sick? Is it an injury from fighting with horns? Is it from attack of some predator or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Nature takes care of it. I think
Yeah.
what you said is exactly
Yeah.
right.
Exactly. So.
Well, we've had a good session in that, and Brother Mark, we appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, man.
And
Add a preacher,
been very-
add an hour. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
it's been very educational, and hopefully our listeners out there will benefit and listen. And I know he's going to join us again on some future sessions. There are a lot of things we could sit here and talk for hours. There's so much out there, so we really appreciate it. We do want to mention that we're going to have our drawing. We kind of got off with that, and we want to give our listeners one more week if they'll like and share our podcast. We want you guys to all be out, everyone out there, to have an opportunity to get involved in this drawing for these 3 hunts that we're going to do, the youth hunts on November the 10th. So like and share it on our Facebook page. I've had some out there to mention to us about our lack of involvement on our Instagram. So I know there are a lot of guys out there on Instagram. I'm not the biggest Instagram guy.
I'm not either.
But I know that there are a lot of people are. Brother Mark is. He's big on Instagram. So we're gonna really try to pay more attention to that, put more of our stuff out there on Instagram, because we know we have a lot of viewers out there that want to see pics, and we're coming into that time of the year where we all want to share pics, and so we're going to try to be a little more active in that area. Be sure to go to our website, southernlegendoutdoors.com, facebook.com / Southern Legend Outdoors. Also check out our Twitter, and as we get our Instagram up and running, check out our pics there. So thanks, guys. Appreciate everyone.
Thank you,
being
Brother
part
Mark.
tonight.
Yeah,
Brother
man. Glad
Mark.
y'all have me.
Kerry, thanks again
Big
for the
fun.
meal tonight. We didn't really talk a lot. We had chili and grilled shrimp.
Grilled shrimp,
And
sauteed sausage, and
Yeah, it
onions
was
and vegetables and pie and homemade.
a smorgasbord.
Yeah, what did we have? Homemade. I was saying
Well,
pecans.
there was rotel.
The candy bar.
Oh yeah, payday.
Payday.
Homemade payday.
Sugar free.
So it was
sugar
great.
free. So that way we ate twice. But
Appreciate you hosting us again.
hey, this is the Southern Legend Studios, the Richard Stafford Man Cave. He's not here. I'm glad, because his dogs won against Auburn, and he has been barking ever since.
Yeah.
So
With the off week.
We look forward to having him back with us.
Yeah.
Our next podcast. So
Do want to give
Kerry will.
a shout out to Bucks of Tecomate. You can see me there.
Yeah.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. Bucks on the Outdoor Channel.
Yeah.
Just pull up your listings, check your times out, and good possibility you'll see me hunting there. And
let's
we'll
make it a point to talk about that. In
Yeah,
our
we'll
next,
try to talk more about those hunts and stuff. Sure.
podcast, and you share some stories that
Absolutely.
some great experiences. So
I can't wait till turkey season podcast so we can then let him share. This is a deer hunter and a turkey killer.
yeah,
That's what this guy is. All right. And yeah, and
we
he-
got to get the. I want to get the video out on our Facebook page. I know you've got it, and we've got to get that out there.
of
So,
the
The chase.
WWE.
yeah, the
yeah.
chase.
His daddy is a Hall of Fame football coach.
He was in the octagon, man.
Brother,
I mean, it was like
brother Mark played football. He was physical. He's still physical. He's a man's man.
gosh.
And
Here we
this
go.
turkey wanted some, he thought, and the last thing he saw was a grown man coming down on his head. Hey, but listen, that kid that killed that turkey, he'll never forget that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it took 4 grown men, basically, to make that happen. And but it did. And but anyway, talking about hunts, this man has stories after stories. Brother Steve Parrish says about Brother Mark Newell that his parents let turkeys raise him. They dropped him off into the woods. He was raised by turkeys, and he's been mad at them ever since.
That's awesome.
That's gonna be good having Brother Mark.
And
with us.
mentioning your DVD too, we haven't
Yes.
said anything about that. I think the last couple of times. Just remind our listeners that you have the By His Grace Productions hunting video.
$20.
$20.
It's 9 hunts, 2 hours long. Kids, handicapped preachers, not handicapped preachers, but handicapped people,
Yeah.
preachers. And Brother Mark's on several. He filmed several. He's called on several, deer and turkey. Provided land for some of the hunts. But every dime goes back into By His Grace Outdoors. We're leasing more land, building more shooting houses, doing more stuff. This is what I tell people all the time. They'll buy one. I'll say, you just bought another bag of seed, bag of fertilizer. I mean, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
Every dime of it, to the penny, goes into this for these kids and stuff. And talking about Brother Mark, as busy of a man as he is in everything he does, he never misses a year of giving me time. He gives back as much as he does anything, and he just does. He's raised my youngest son in the woods,
Yeah.
but he gives back, and I appreciate. He knows that. I appreciate.
Oh, man,
I appreciate
love
it, man.
Yeah.
Fun.
And he's fun to be with. He, he's just he's our kind of. We're all family, and I guess we could bring him in and just
Yeah.
make him family.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Hey, next vacation that our mother-in-law pays
Yes.
for, you
Yeah.
going, bro?
Yeah.
Thank you,
Come
Bill and Wanda. So he's got 3 kids. Anyway,
The 3 brother-in-laws are here. We can make
Hey,
that decision,
yeah.
can't we?
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
keep forgetting
That's right.
that.
Yeah, you keep forgetting that we're family.
Yeah.
That's right.
I know.
And here's
The
the
KKK.
And here's the KKK right here, man. It's us. But Kevin came a little later. We did a furniture trade and got Kevin in the family. And
We'll have to tell that story.
we'll have to
sometime.
tell that story later. But here's the great thing. What we're doing right now is Brother Mark has come into what we've been doing, and he's just like at home.
Yeah.
Because, one thing you're going to find in the hunting world is the fellowship.
Yeah.
And once, Nolan Cochran, dear friend of ours, he said, I ain't as mad at him as I used to be. And we all remember a time when, it consumed us selfishly, and now it consumes us for others. We want to
Yeah,
see
that's
others,
right.
our children, our
Yeah.
grandchildren, we just want to see that.
That's
So,
right.
it's just great. Been a great podcast. I appreciate y'all coming to the house. We'll do it again. I'll be doing one from from Tennessee next week.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You're
And,
going to be
yeah.
in Tennessee and then Arkansas.
Ray Cobb,
Yeah.
fallow deer farmer, I guess would be the correct terminology. They raise fallow deer. They raise pheasants. They put on a pheasant hunt for veterans every year that's unbelievable. They raise them, bring the veterans in to a piece of property, and let them kill. And it's just amazing. They take a boys' home every year deer hunting. These guys, I'm telling you, you're going to want to tune in to the next podcast because these guys are doing in Tennessee what we're trying to do here, even on a different level.
Yeah. That's awesome. Looking forward to that. We got some other guests coming in over the next few weeks, so really excited about that. Thanks again, guys, and looking forward to being with you at the next upcoming podcast.
Heroes get remembered, but legends never die. It's your time now. Be a legend.